Greetings paddlers, Bill Dawes here from supboardguide.com, and today I'm going to be talking about how you can improve your stand-up paddleboarding. Now we're not just talking about technique here, that's one aspect, but there are several other really important considerations that you really need to factor in. I've been coaching paddleboarding for more than 15 years now, and these same points keep coming up, but you're not going to find much discussion about them elsewhere on the internet. So, what we're talking about is just how you can raise your game. For whatever reason, maybe you want to paddle further, paddle faster, you want to try competition perhaps, or you just want to improve your paddling. So there are going to be four main considerations that we're going to cover in this video. Each of them matter, each of them is important, each of them you can change, you are in control of, and I'm going to tell you how. Number one, let's consider your paddling environment, which kind of generally means your life. How's it playing out for you at the moment? Now, if paddleboarding for you means like driving a couple of hours, you get to a place where the conditions are often bad, you haven't got any paddleboarding mates, all your mates actually think paddleboarding is lame and they just want to talk about baseball, then with the best will in the world, it's going to be hard for you to raise your game. And again, maybe your job doesn't allow it, you don't get the time off anyway. So take a look at your environment. What can you do to make it easier for you to go paddleboarding? I mean, you could go the whole schmear, you could quit your job, sell the house, sell the kids, I don't know, move to Hawaii, paddle 8 hours a day, you're going to get a lot better. But that might not be realistic for everyone. But what can you do? Maybe you could relocate so you're a little bit nearer the water. Maybe you could change your shift, maybe you could change your job. Anything that will get you more paddling time is going to help raise your game. It's going to be really hard to improve if you can't actually easily go paddling. Another real easy little thing on this, find some paddling friends. That will make a big difference. If you've got people to go paddling with, that will raise the enthusiasm. It means you get more options to go paddling. There'll be people phoning up and say, hey, let's go paddling, and you'll go. So just that simple thing. If you've got nobody in your area, get on social media, try and find some other paddlers. There will be some people out there. So your environment, think about it. What can you do to make it easier to go paddling? That's where we start. Next consideration is your paddleboarding equipment. Now, if you're currently using a big, wide, round-nosed inflatable that's super thick, and you've got an aluminium paddle with a plastic blade, the reality is it's going to be hard to raise your game much more. There's nothing wrong with that gear. It's great for what it is made for. It's beginner entry-level paddleboarding kit. But with the best will in the world, it doesn't even want to paddle fast. It's not what it's designed to do. So you're going to need to think about maybe changing your equipment. Go for something more like a touring board, a paddle that's got some fiberglass or carbon in it ideally. By increasing the quality of your equipment, it will help you paddle better. It's kind of like just when you get into a sports car, you know, it just encourages you to drive faster. It will make it easier for you to progress if you've got the right equipment to progress. If you've already got some decent touring kit, then should you invest further? This is an interesting question. Now, this actually is one we encounter quite a lot. People think, right, I want to get better, so they rush off and they buy a really cool race board or whatever. That can kind of be counterproductive because you've got to look at it from the point of view of what are you actually doing there. You're just buying speed for the sake of it. You've spent money to buy the speed, but it hasn't actually made you a better paddler as such. You know, if you're doing it so you can go faster than your mate, if he then buys a better race board as well, you haven't got anywhere. It's kind of inflation rather than you've actually improved your game. So don't just assume that you've got to buy super speedy gear just to paddle better. You can paddle really well on any touring board. Check out our reviews. We've got plenty of good reviews on good touring boards, what sort of thing to get. Likewise with getting a better grade of paddle. But you don't need to go the whole way. Having said that, for a lot of people, the retail therapy is actually part of this process. Yeah, I want to improve my paddling. I'm going to get my credit card out. I'm going to get some better gear. That is my investment in this whole project. It's going to make me paddle better if I've got better gear. That's fine if that's the way you roll. But don't feel that you need to go and buy a state-of-the-art race board just to improve your paddling. Indeed, it can sometimes be counterproductive if you end up getting something that's too advanced for you and you're not ready for it yet. If you're finding the board difficult to use, you're going to end up finding reasons not to go paddling. You need to love your gear, otherwise you're not going to be wanting to use it. Likewise, don't go too far with the paddle. If you get something that's super stiff, it might be a really high performance paddle, but if it ends up hurting you, if it ends up injuring you, then that's counterproductive as well. So that's our second point. Think about your equipment. Is your equipment right for where you want to go with your paddleboarding ambitions? It is definitely worth investing. It will help you raise your game, but just, yeah, don't push your sights too high on this at this stage. Number 3 is your body, your fitness. This is a bit of a complicated one, so let's unpack it a bit. Now, for sure, if your fitness level at the moment is so bad that you're out of breath after you've carried your board to the water's edge, then you're going to need to do something about that. But otherwise, do you need to change your fitness to raise your game paddleboarding? Fitness comes in many forms. You've got strength, stamina, suppleness, aerobic fitness, anaerobic fitness. There's many aspects to it. Just looking through those, suppleness is never a bad thing because it'll always benefit you on the water. So take up yoga, do some stretching, that sort of thing. It's always going to help. Strength, not so much. I mean, if you're functionally weak in an area, then yeah, for sure, it'd be good to work through that. But you do not need to bulk up to get better at paddleboarding, okay? You do not need to be down at the gym pumping iron. Paddleboarding is not really a strength sport. You're better kind of to be lean and wiry like a surfer than bulked up like a sprinter. Okay? The aerobic aspect and the anaerobic, that's kind of where it gets interesting with paddleboarding. An awful lot of people do assume that aerobic fitness is going to be vital. And in fact, a lot of, shall we say, self-styled advanced paddleboarding coaches, they're really just fitness coaches. You go on one of their boot camps to improve your paddling, and actually all they're doing is making you do intervals and sprints, and it's fitness, blah, blah, blah. But being fitter doesn't necessarily make you a better paddler. In fact, it can actually work quite the opposite. I see this a lot. You're fitter so you can do more poor quality strokes per minute. That's not progress, okay? I see paddlers out there and they're super fit, but they're kind of like revving like a car engine, a stick shift being driven in third gear. They're pouring a whole lot of petrol into the tank and they're out there going, yeah, 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 but their paddling is not great, okay? You often see this, even at top level, when you look at a race. You'll see the first few guys coming across the finish line at the end of the race, their technique's poetry in motion, it looks beautiful. But then the guys in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th or whatever, they're working twice as hard to stay there because they haven't got the technique, they've just got the fitness. And you can't get away with that forever. So fitness in itself can make you a faster paddler, but it isn't necessarily going to make you a better paddler. I mean, having said all that, there is no harm being fit, but don't think that it's all about fitness to improve your paddling. And the great thing about paddling is that it can actually give you the fitness you need anyway. If you can get out and go paddling 3 times a week, and in one session, just go long. Keep it down at an aerobic heart rate. If you've got a fitness watch so you can check your heart rate, really good. If you know about heart rate zones, you want to be paddling in zone 2, just a comfortable aerobic pace, and go out and paddle for an hour, a couple of hours if you can, just hold that pace. That's brilliant for building up your fundamental fitness. Then in another session, go hard. Go threshold maximum heart rate for 20, 25, 30 minutes maximum. Okay, you want to finish that absolutely out of breath, gasping, all right. And then in your third session, maybe 45 minutes, do some intervals. Just start out with paddling hard for a minute and then let your heart rate recover, that back to a nice aerobic rate, maybe 130 beats a minute, and then do another hard minute and maybe do half a dozen of those. Start with that. And then as you get more into it, you can decrease your recovery times, you can do shorter intervals, that sort of thing. But so basically, if you can get out 3 times a week, go long on one, go hard on another, do intervals on another, your fitness is going to go through the roof. I guarantee it. You don't need to be pounding the pavements. You don't need to take out that expensive gym membership. That will do it for you. If you throw in a stretching routine and maybe a little ab core routine on your lounge floor 2 or 3 times a week, get some good sleep, think about your nutrition, your body is going to thank you. And that will give you all the fitness benefit you need for your paddling. So yeah, fitness is important, but the paddling itself can give you the fitness. You do not need to increase your fitness outside, and you can still very much improve your game. Okay, last but absolutely not least is technique. you can improve your paddling without actually needing to improve your fitness or raise your equipment levels or change your environment. Technique is the number one, and it's the thing that most paddlers actually really need to work on. I talk a lot about this in some of our other videos on the Supboard Guide channel, so I don't want to go too much into that stuff now, but we can all improve our technique. There's huge gains to be made there, even at very top level. I can guarantee that our world champions are out there working on their technique all the time, because technique is kind of everything in paddling. It's so easy to paddle with bad technique. So, as I said, we've got other real good videos on technique. I don't want to go into that too much right now. So to summarize then, the 4 things you can do to raise your game. Think about your environment. How can you change it to make it more paddler friendly? Think about your equipment. How can you change that to make it easier and fun for you to go paddling? Think about your fitness. What do you need to do to improve your game in that respect? And lastly, technique. Do some work on your technique, because it will pay hugely. Okay, well look, I hope you found this useful. If you like it, please subscribe to our channel, tell your friends about it, and do check out the other videos we've got on supboardguide.com, and happy paddling.